Hello, my name is Warwick Steer. I'm a historic interpreter for the Office of Historic Preservation here in Prince William County. Today we are at Brentsville Courthouse Historic Center, and along with the rest of the nation, we are observing Native American Heritage Month. Please join me as I take you across the site and we can explore where the Native Americans would have been in Prince William County. I'm standing now next to Broad Run, which is one of the major arteries that goes through Prince William County. Further south, the river ends up hitting what we call the fall line, which is a geological feature in Virginia, and it separates the lower navigable waters from the upper waters in most of Virginia. Down in the Tidewater region is where our first Native American culture in Prince William existed. They were an Algonquin group named the Doeg or Tauxenent. They would have been closely associated with the Powhatan Confederacy, but depending on the needs and resources, sometimes they were allies and sometimes they were enemies of the Powhatan Confederacy. They were a sedentary group. They lived in villages. Their main one was on the shores of the Algonquian River, which actually means end of the river in their language. They would have had numerous villages along the river. They grew squash and corn and beans, but their major source of food would have come from the rivers, either Potomac or these smaller streams like Broad Run. The Doeg hold an important place in Virginia history. In 1675, a band of Doeg warriors invaded and attacked a local plantation in response to colonial encroachment on their lands. The response for the colonial villagers and Virginians ended up being called Bacon's Rebellion. The terrain we're on right now is considered the Piedmont region. We have a lot of dense forest, and this is where the other Native American group of Prince William County would prefer to stay and live. They were called the Manahoac. The Manahoac were a Siouan-speaking group with a Siouan language and Siouan culture, very different to the Algonquins of the river areas. They were nomadic, and they would have actually settled down in smaller groups. We know they had a few larger towns, but the majority of the population would move through the forests, and in order to sustain their lives, they would build small villages, and they would actually clear cut some of the forests. This was a tactic they used. So instead of hunting through the forest for large buffalo and deer, the buffalo and deer would come to the grassland areas that they had cleared. They also farmed and grew pumpkins, beans, and squash to sustain through times when they didn't have a lot of buffalo. The archaeological record for the Manahoac is very slim because they moved on so frequently, but we do have some examples of pottery and weapons made out of stone that exist from their time period. But by 1600, they were challenged by other Native Americans in the area, specifically by the Iroquois to the north. And by 1660, German traveler came through here, a famous expedition led by John Lederer, and his records show that there were very few Native Americans left in this region. Most of them had been pushed out either by the colonists, succumbed to disease, or the Seneca had pushed them further south to join their Monacan cousins from central Virginia. For the month of November, please come out to our historic sites and explore the grounds that the Manahoac and the Doeg would have called home.